three disturbing true Christmas horror stories. Goddamn. On a roll in there, hoe, man. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Drop down in the comment what y'all want to see next, man. Let's get right into it, goddamn. Know December fool Christmas coming up, so we gotta come with the horror stories in this bit, bruh. Do these hoes be real, fool? Or do they just be making up this shit, fool? Y'all let me know down in the comments, man. What kind of creep ass sound music? What the fuck?
A few years ago now, I was fresh out of college, and I moved back into my parents' house for the free food and rent while I looked for a long-term job. My parents lived in a very rural area. They were a good 60 miles from the nearest city, but I of course didn't have any other option. Summer quickly turned to winter with no luck on a new job. I was getting sick of staying at my parents all day long, so I took up a part-time job as a night security guard for a small construction site. It would only be temporary, just until I could find a job that's actually related to my field of study. The man who was in charge of the construction site was a family friend. His name was Rob. I didn't really see why he needed night security, seeing as we were in a very rural area where the crime rate is essentially non-existent. A part of me thinks he just offered the job out of pity. Either way, I took it. It didn't pay well, but like I said before, it got me out of the house. I remember it was Christmas Eve. I was scheduled to work a night shift leading into Christmas morning. All I ever really did for that job was sit in one of the construction trailers, just to keep watch on things, I guess. I'll be honest, I usually brought my DS and just played that all night.
Nintendo DS.
I didn't really have any set tasks I needed to get done or anything.
I had a DSi, goddamn. Let me know y'all had a retro. What's your oldest? What was your oldest or your first game console? Goddamn. I had a Game Boy. That was my first one. Then I had a DSi. Then I went to the PSP, goddamn. Oh god.
Something I should mention is
then I had a PlayStation 2. Well, my dad had that hoe, and then they like turned into mine type shit once he stopped playing that hoe.
For someone to travel up this road,
that one all young as hell though. Then I had an 8-bot 360. Then I switched from 8-bot to PlayStation 5. I ain't had no PS4. I missed out on this shit. But now I got the big boy shit.
Is the best way I could describe it. I routinely glanced out the window and saw the imprint of a snow angel under a streetlight.
What the fuck?
If you don't know what a snow angel is, it's basically when you lie on your back in the snow and swing your arms and legs back and forth, leaving what looks like the outline of an angel. This is something that no animal could do. What's more is it looked like a fully grown adult had made the imprint. I went outside to get a better look. I looked around for tracks in the snow and saw a set of them that came straight from the nearby woods, not the road. They led to the snow angel, and then around the back of the construction trailer I was just in. I couldn't get over the fact that I never once heard or saw this person, or even that there was a person out here in the first place. We were in the middle of nowhere on Christmas Eve, now early Christmas morning, and it was well below freezing out while still snowing.
What city is
My heart
this?
rate started picking up at the thought that I wasn't alone out here. All I wanted to do was leave, and so I got in my car and started driving off.
Of course you ain't alone, nigga.
Now, this next part I'm not particularly proud of. I realized that all the construction workers would see the snow angel when they returned back to work and assume that I did it. Looking back, that wasn't a big deal, but back then I worried they might make fun of me for it. I seriously started
How are they gonna know it's your ass?
just so that I could kick up the snow around the snow angel to get rid of it. As the construction trailer came back into view, I noticed a figure standing at the front door. He was wearing all black with a ski mask on. He had his back to me with his hand on the doorknob. Luckily, I locked the door, but it didn't even look like he was trying to open it. He just stood there, frozen, with his head down. I panicked and stepped on the gas to turn back around. On my way back home, I left Rob a voice message explaining what I'd just seen. Rob later said how he went out to the construction site as soon as he woke up and listened to my message. When he got there, there was nothing to see. Nothing was stolen, and what was left of the snow angel and footprints had been covered by more falling snow.
Hours later.
Rob thought the guy was trying to rob the place, thinking no one would be there on Christmas Eve. And when he saw that I was there, he made a snow angel to try and scare me off. But what I don't understand is then why didn't the guy rob the place when I left? I also just don't understand why his footprints came from the forest. It's possible it wasn't an attempted robbery, and rather some guy who wasn't right in the head just happened to stumble across the construction site. Whatever the case, that marks the last shift I ever worked as a security guard.
I'm crying scared. That
Show
nigga
me
retired
Carfax
after that,
Value.
huh?
You get the most accurate
Hey.
price based on the vehicle's accident history.
This happened a few years ago on Christmas Eve. I was 24 years old, and because of my financial situation at the time, I couldn't afford to travel and see my family for the holidays. It wasn't all bad though. One of my close friends offered to have me over for a Christmas dinner with his family. It went good. Come around, say 7 o'clock, and I was getting ready to leave. It had been snowing all night, and the roads were getting pretty bad. If I waited any longer, I would have been stuck there. I had to have been one of the only cars out on those roads. I stayed at least a good 15 miles per hour under the speed limit as I made my way down the highway. Not only could I not see much of anything in front of me, but I also wanted to give myself enough time to stop if I needed to. As it turns out, I would need to. Up ahead through the snowflakes, I could make out a set of brake lights. As I got closer, I realized the car was completely stopped in the middle of the road. I honestly was just going to drive around it without giving it a second thought. But for whatever reason, traffic cones were placed next to the car, blocking me from doing so. I couldn't really drive off the road to get around it because both sides of the highway were slanted downward and covered in snow. I didn't want to get stuck. I slowed down as I got closer, and that's when I noticed an arm waving outside the driver's side window. My first thought was the guy's car had broken down in the weather and he needed help. Although I wasn't so quick to believe this. I've seen enough true crime documentaries to be skeptical. I knew the second I got out of my car to help this guy, I was vulnerable. But the other part of me worried this man's car really did break down on him on this remote highway. And if that were the case, the obvious right thing to do would be to give him a ride, especially considering the cold weather and how little traffic came
Hell
through
no. I don't trust it.
I inched closer as I was deciding what I wanted to do. Finally, I got close up to the back of the car where I had to stop. I was still thinking. I did not want to get out of my car. The next few seconds happened in what felt like the blink of an eye. Without warning, the trunk of the car popped open and 2 armed men got out. They had winter clothes on and were wearing masks to cover their faces.
Oh my
They started
goodness.
screaming at me to get out of my car as they pointed their weapons in my direction. Without even thinking
They
of the
robbing people in the
consequences,
winter
I put the
storm.
accelerator to the floor, my heart pounding in my chest.
Were they
I
kidnapping
went around
folk?
the car and drove over the traffic cones. I looked in my rearview mirror and saw them rush to get back inside their car. For a second, I thought they were going to follow me, and they might have tried, but I was going as fast as I could. I lost their headlights pretty quickly. I probably broke every law for speeding that night, which was made even worse with the driving conditions of the road, but I needed to create as much distance as I possibly could. I focused on getting away for about 5 minutes, until I called the police and told them about the car and the armed men. I never heard back from them. Honestly, a part of me thinks they never even looked into it because of the poor driving conditions. But I can't prove this, so I obviously don't know. If I had to guess, I think the men were only trying to rob people. I think they were taking advantage of the inactive Christmas Eve roads, robbing people who were most likely carrying valuables in the form of Christmas presents. Although, I've since talked to some of my family members about this, and they think the men had much worse intentions.
Can't even fuck with it, goddamn.
This
Hell
story
no.
happened to me when I was 8 years old. I don't remember all the details, but I recently asked my mom about it, and she helped me fill in some of the parts I didn't remember. It was a few days before Christmas, and my mom was taking my older sister and I to the store to get Christmas presents for our extended family. I think it was around 6 p.m. at night. I'm not exactly sure, but it was dark outside, I know that. Being that I was only 8, I got bored pretty quickly. It took maybe 15 minutes after
I ain't
entering
even
the store
driving
for
through the
me to
winter
lose
storm,
patience.
goddamn. Fuck it.
While inside one of the stores, I remember sneaking away from my mom and sister to go off and do my own thing. Since it was almost Christmas, a lot of the bushes and trees outside were covered in Christmas lights. I began to wander over to the window to get a better look, and eventually, unknown to my mom, I left the store to go outside and see them up close. I remember standing right next to one of the bushes, admiring the lights and their different colors. At some point, I heard a man's voice from behind me saying hi. I turned around and looked up to see a grimy, what I now assumed to be homeless man in a rough-looking Santa costume. He pulled down his fake white beard to his chin and repeated himself. I kinda just stood there in awe before I finally said hi back. He asked me if I was looking at the lights, and I told him that I was and that I thought they looked cool. He then said, and I'll never forget his exact words, "If you like Christmas lights, you want to see the ones at my house. Here, follow me, I'll show you."
Oh, hell
He reached down
no.
to grab my hand. I excitedly grabbed it and started walking with him. We made it maybe 15 yards out from the front of the store.
Excitedly grabbed it.
The door had
What
opened,
the
chimed out, followed by a scream. It was my mom. I immediately felt the man's hand leave mine, and as I looked in his direction, I saw him full-on sprinting away from us without saying a single word.
What the fuck?
My mom ran over to me and practically dragged me back inside with tears forming in her eyes. It took me a few years to fully understand the danger I was in that night. My family still talks about it a lot. I don't like to, but every once in a while I think about it myself. Particularly how close I was to having my life completely changed or even ended in that moment. If my mom didn't notice I was missing when she did, I likely wouldn't be here today.
She crazy, fool. I ain't lying. You excitedly grabbed a stranger's hand just because he was dressed like Santa Claus. Hey, you want to go see lights at my house? Yeah. What the fuck, fool? Anyway, man, that's it for this video, fool. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Drop down in the comment what y'all want to see next. You know what I'm talking about? Fuck with y'all that, man. Big brr.